All right, we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another session of the Goblin Club podcast. What's up, everybody? We are live. Welcome to another session of the Goblin Club podcast. You guys already know my name is Will. I am the host of this show, the number one Polynesian podcast in the world. Let's get it on. We have a great show for you guys. As you guys can see, we have a special panel tonight. You guys already know if you watch my podcast, I always try every single month to host a panel of Tongans, so we can talk about the things that goes on within our Tongan community. So we have a great Tongan cast tonight. So to all the Tongans out there, if you're watching this right now, I can see the viewership going up right now. Thank you so much for watching. I always appreciate you guys. And shout out to all the Tongans out there. We have some good topic, a great topic to discuss within the Tongan culture and community. So definitely tune in. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, to all my subscribers out there, the people who follow my platform and support my channel, thank you so much for all the love and support. Shout out to you guys. Don't forget, this is a public show, so I definitely appreciate all your feedback that you always post in the live comments. Always appreciate you guys expressing what you think, your perspective, your opinions on the different topics that we're going to discuss tonight. So we're definitely going to talk about Tongan morals, values, and standards tonight. So definitely want to hear from all the Tongans. If you're watching this right now and you're Tongan, or maybe you're not Tongan, I definitely want to hear your feedback and what you guys think about the different topics that we're going to discuss tonight. Don't forget, this is a live show. So if you guys want to be part of the podcast, I do allow people to come on. So I always have an open invite for everybody. It is an open platform, open live show, public podcast for you guys. I will post the public link on the live chat on YouTube. So if you're watching this from Twitch, if you're watching this from Facebook, you have to come to YouTube, click on the public chat. It'll be pinned to the top of the screen. Click on that link, and you can be part of the conversation. So I always appreciate you guys. I know there's some people that was hitting me up on Instagram. They asking me, how do I be part of the podcast? Just click on that link and you can jump on, especially for all the Tongans out there. We're going to have a discussion tonight about a Tongan topic. So definitely want to hear from all Tongans with different perspectives. Whether you agree or disagree. So shout out to all my supporters out there. But I do know I have a lot of haters out there, a lot of haters out there, people that may disagree or get triggered by my content. I always want to invite you guys, especially, I love to have conversations with people with like-minded people, but I always want to appreciate to have a conversation with people that disagree and have an open conversation. So whether you agree or disagree, come on. And to all the people out there that really want to throw some criticize me and always really, really hate my channel, I got something for you. Oh, all right, to all the haters out there, I have nothing but love. Whether you hate or disagree or you want to wish bad upon me, I have nothing but love. I just want to pray for you. At the end of the day, I want to have I'm willing to have a conversation with you, but but nothing but love here. I just want to say that whether you agree or disagree, always appreciate you. Much but love, and thank you for watching. And everybody out there, I see Fob Deep already on the live chat already. Fob Deep right now is crying from that hymn. Him 118. I grew up with that hymn in Tonga. Italia sisu atahape he. Isipi na he. That's the hymn I grew up in Tonga. So shout out to you guys. And then Fob Deep said, family over everything, family versus everyone, family is forever. Thank you so much, Fob Deep. Thank you so much for tuning in already early in the live show. Thank you so much to all you guys watching. But yeah, don't forget the super chat donations. Some of you guys do support me financially with your pockets. So if you have a specific question or topic that you guys want to bring up on tonight's show, or a specific question to one of the panel guests, ask it through a super chat. I'll make it a priority. I'll put it on the top of the screen, give you a shout out, and also read it on the live show. So thank you so much for everybody on there. Thank you so much for all your super chat donations. Every single donation will be reinvested to my podcast. And of course, I'm launching my podcast studio at the end of this year. I'm going to have in-studio live podcast. You guys can't wait to see my podcast studio. I've been working behind the scenes to make that happen for you guys. I always want to give you guys the best quality content, but pretty much that's all my YouTube stuff. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for all the Tongans out there. And of course, this is a Tongan podcast, a Tongan panel. So we're going to start off the podcast in English. And then at the end, at the last part of the podcast, we're going to switch it to Tongan and finish the podcast in Tongan. So I do want to make sure that we can have great content for everybody out there that speaks English. But I do want to give a shout out. I do want to end the podcast in Tongan for all my Tongan speakers out there. A lot of you guys said reach out to me that you guys appreciate our conversations in Tongan and you guys enjoy that. So I want to make sure we give you guys the best quality content in English and Tongan as well. So thank you so much. But let's get right into the podcast. As you guys can see, we have a full panel tonight. Thank you so much. Shout out to the panel real quick. For being on tonight, all my tokoas and Dufepini's being part of this tonight's podcast. Thank you so much for you guys being on here. But I know a lot of you guys, many people may not know who we are. So if you guys don't mind, can you give everybody a quick intro before we get things started? All right, I'll start with the ladies real quick. Angela, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hello, my name is Angela Palale Bustos. You guys can hear me, right? Well,
yes.
Okay. I'm a homeschool mom of 4. I am from Newark, California, so which is close to Will. Nice to be here.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you for being on tonight. Let me pass it to Heta. Heta, go ahead and do a quick intro for everybody out there.
Malolele, hello everyone. I'm Heta High calling in from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm a business consultant for Ernst & Young and appreciate the privilege to be here tonight.
Okay. All right, Malo Heta, thank you so much. Let me pass it to you, Daniela. Daniela, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, Malolele, everyone. I'm Daniela. I am currently in New Zealand. On paper, I have no specific specialty. I'm what you call back in Tonga as kauwhaama or skolumutu. But a vast majority of my experience and how I've managed to survive life is through experience and networking. So I'm deeply blessed and grateful that ofa tama he wani o kei tahi rei begi tamaranga tako ni. So I hope whatever discussion we have tonight, I can offer some of that experience and hopefully it's helpful for anyone who's watching.
Okay, all right, no worries. Thank you so much, Daniela. And let me pass it on to the man with the Tongan jersey representing Tonga already. Pass it to Billy. Billy, go ahead and introduce yourself, Billy. I think you're on mute, I think. Oh, yeah.
All right. Just the name or what?
Introduction, Sianda.
I think I'm in the wrong group. Just kidding. William-nacouzi. O nautupa kay Tonga kako ki paya mai ki Idaho. Pe ko au pe Tonga hen mo ki kau Tonga pe hen. Pai to tol, family to tol. Pe kau ki te to o mahanga mo hoa mo. Fefia pe ke kau wata ki mumu bone boni. Malo.
I know. Thank you, William. And yeah, William, we're gonna start off in English, and then we'll finish up, and then we'll finish the podcast in Tongan. So just FYI. And last but not least, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Salsi, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Man, that was the best introduction I've ever had. I don't think I need to say anything else. Anyway, my name is Salsi. Thank you for the introduction, Will. Salsi Vemau here. I'm currently in San Diego. Where did we start? Life has been a journey, and it's been beautiful. It's been giving a lot of opportunity to take a look at my life and do a lot of self-reflection. Just been beautiful, and thank you for having me. It's been some time. I haven't been around for like the last 3 months, and thanks for having me back. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
All right, no worries. All right, Malo Bita Salsi, good to always see you. Good to go. It's good to see you. You're doing well. But yeah, thank you so much. Let's get right into the topic. You guys already know the topic that we're going to discuss tonight. And of course, in the live chat, thank you so much. Let me know what you guys think on the live chat. And of course, I'll post a public link. So I know some of you guys did message me on Instagram. If you guys want to jump on tonight, you guys can click on that link and be part of the conversation. So the topic that we're going to discuss tonight, have Tongan standards, morals, and values changed in 2022? So let me just open up the topic for everybody. Let me know what you guys think. I do have specific things I do want to talk about, but obviously we're all here. We're all Tongan. We all live in America. We all grew up. For a lot of us, we all grew up the Tongan way. And there's this big conversation, especially with the newer generation. A lot of the Tongan standards, the morals, the values that we were taught, or the Tongan culture. A lot of people today, if you go look at social media, a lot of people have disagreements about certain things that we were taught as Tongans. A lot of people agree with certain things. A lot of people disagree with certain things. A lot of people have different opinions about what certain values and what certain morals, what certain standards they're going to teach and move on for their kids and their family. So I'm gonna just pretty much that's the basis of this conversation. I want to hear from what you guys think. We all grew up Tongan, so I know there's a lot of people out there that's very old school, very hardcore. We're not gonna change anything. Everything's perfect. This is the Tongan way. If you don't follow it, then you're not a true Tongan. But there's a lot of people out there that have a different opinion. You know what? I am Tongan, but these things I don't see any benefits. I don't see it benefiting me. I don't see it benefiting my family, my kids. I think there's a better way to do it. So they're willing to be more malleable and to be able to change to certain things. But sometimes people that's I guess that's what the conversation is like, are we allowed? Is it okay to change certain things, or is that going against the very tradition, the standards, the morals, and values that we were taught of being Tongan? So let me know what you guys' initial thoughts about that. And of course, I do have specific examples that we're gonna dive into. And I saw some videos on social media of people talking about it, so I'm gonna play those videos, and you guys have a chance to react to it. And then we're gonna focus on those different topics one by one. But I'll start with you, Heta. Heta, what are your thoughts about the Tongan standards, morals, and values changing in 2022? What's your initial thoughts about it? Oh, I think you're on mute, Heta.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we hear.
Yeah. So my thoughts about it is I can only speak from my interactions with my immediate family. So I can't speak, because I don't interact with a whole lot there's no Tongans around here where I am. And so, but what I have noticed, I think one of the things that's lost here in the States, what I've noticed like between my nieces and nephews is the whakaapa-apa, the unganga whaapa-apa, right? How we respect each other, and you're not growing up in the island, you cannot, I didn't go partying together with my brothers or drink together, or even be around with that. You weren't in the same room, not even, be in the same house, so what I've noticed, that's the kind of thing that's kind of lost. And I don't know, maybe the social media has a lot of influence in that, I think. But I think if the parents hold tight to what they truly value and live out their values, because sometimes we can tell our children all we want to do, but if we don't walk the talk and act it out for them to see it, it's not going to continue from generation to generation.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to leave that legacy that we want to leave to our children.
Yeah, but I just listening to what you're saying, and I feel like cringing, right? It's such a it's a great tradition. It works back at home because it's such a small rock.
Right.
And we're human beings, and we want to expand our thoughts. We want to expand our experience. Like I have it that's what's happening to me in my family. And going back to what you said earlier, it is about my experience. My experience of being a young man and having a sister, that I couldn't experience what it is to have a sister. I was denied having a relationship with my sister. The relationship we had was fake. It was fake. We get to walk through the store and that's it. What relationship is there? There's none. And I can't get comfortable with who I am as a man if I can't be comfortable with my sister and what we do in life. In life. And we're talking about having interaction and having conversation about what matters. And that Tongan tradition has robbed me and my sister. It robbed me of having a relationship with my sister. It robbed my sister of having a relationship with her brother.
That is actually, I totally agree with that 100%, right? Because I see it between like my husband and his sister, their relationship, they're very close, right? But having the freedom to just, the way I cringe, like even my son right now, it's a different, like I look at it at the millennium age. s- Dropping the F bomb is like their everyday language, and I still cringe, when I'm around that. Um, but it is the reality of life. I mean, you can't stop it from moving, from hearing it everywhere, even in, everyday television. It's just that's, part of it. Um, and I do agree with what you say, Xiaoxi, but I think some of it building relationship, like I could still, like I had 5 brothers and I was still close with them, but certain things like I just don't do. But maybe that's my own morals. Like I would never wear a bathing suit in front of my brothers, and go to the beach and swim. I would never do that, and I
Yeah.
still don't do that to this day, even if it's just me and my husband.
Yeah.
Certain things growing up in the island that I was taught, um, I'm not going in to practice that, But it goes, I think, to our beliefs and what we believe in and how we, you know, like you said, what do we want to learn from life? What do we want life to teach us? Um,
Yeah.
it's through experience,
And I have it that like that all stems from men's insecurity about who they are. Like this tradition has been passed down from thousands of years. Do we continue to live that way, or do we get to look at something that actually works for us these days, as if our past is constantly trying to have us be a certain way? Why would we stick with that? And I get the whole point of like having a tradition. Tradition are meant to be broken so that we can grow, right? But it takes, I'm just seeing it's going to take somebody that's willing to grow along and see something that's different for ourselves to have that transform. Because once again, if you're constantly robbing yourself out of having a relationship, and I get the whole cussing things, like that's a given, but that's also part of the transformation, is to have people have children, have kids, get that language and have that, put that in the trash can and be with people and not be with what society has taught them. And that's part of our job as mentors, and that's part of our job as parents, to fulfill on those things and make sure that our kids don't grow up that way. And at the same time, allow them to discover themselves in conversation. But it's all about having powerful interactions that would leave children touch, move, and inspired. But if you have it that you can't do this, you can't say this, you can't do this, kids stop being powerful. Kids stop trying to look on the other side, and they don't get to develop themselves to be different. Because tradition has tell us you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't eat while you're standing, you can't eat in front of, you can't eat your father's leftover, you can't do this, nothing. Like there's no space for people to grow.
I agree. I agree 100%.
There's no space for people to grow. Because I still remember I couldn't eat my father's leftover, and I couldn't touch his hair. Like, what the hell is that? It's like this high monarchy of stuff that would up here. And my father and I would never get to connect because he's at this level and I'm at this level. And all we're trying to do at this point is like, let's level up where we can see each other as human beings.
Let me just jump on here real quick. That's actually one of the topics I'm going to bring up. You guys just went right in. I actually have a whole
paper. Took your thing and ran with it.
So thank you so much, Heta and Sasha. So let me get the thoughts of William and Daniela, and then we'll go right back into that conversation. William, what do you think? What's your initial thoughts about Tongan standards, morals, and values changing in 2022? What do you think, William?
It changed a lot, but like I hear the talk about the transformation, like she talk about it. Like I get it, but we have to kind of understand our motto and like tradition as Tongan. Like we have like a high energy. We have kings, and we have queen, and we have like a royal family back in the day, and there's a whole history coming around. So we gotta have to understand where all this coming and Heta gonna touch on that. So we have to understand that yes, now think about it, and yours is right. The distance has been pending, a lot of things been changing with the politics and things going on in Tonga and stuff. Plus came here to a foreign country, everything switch up real quick. And it's kinda hard to kinda keep up and maintain that tradition, and definitely the tradition it's not even working in here in America, or New Zealand, Australia. It's just tough to kinda like keep that, because the problem is it's already broken in Tonga. People are disrespecting started from Tonga. So and certain you know elderly people that still try to maintain it, but it's not, people don't quite care no more. And the other things, like, we don't teach our kids, and it's hard to, like Shazi said, it's hard to kind of keep up with them now, because like for me, like what I think is just like the things that we lack on here is the language. You know, a lot of my nieces and nephews, they don't speak Tongan. And they're all like Hafikasi, and none of them speak Tongan. You know, so that means that the whole new generation here is gone. It's they're half Tongan, but they don't speak Tongan. Um, and so, and I feel like a failure as a person, as a father, if I don't, in a way, because I want to keep that tradition, I want to keep the language, and I want to pass it on to my kids, but I'm trying to figure out a way to teach it to them, because if I'm not, then I feel like I'm obligated. I feel it's my fault that I don't do that. And so I feel like for me, it's like moral and values of Tongans is changing a lot. And but for me, the things that I want to maintain as tradition is fly by. But like Heta talk about, there's certain things that we try in our family to maintain here, and it's completely hard um, um, to maintain, because living here it's a little bit different. But for me personally, and my little two twin 4 months years old, I my goal is try to find figure out a way to teach the language, because there's not much Tongan in here. It's just me myself, and if I don't do it, then I feel like I fail. So that's my thought.
Malapito, William, thank you so much. Let me pass it to you, Daniela. Daniela, real quick, what's your initial thoughts about the topic? Moral standards, reality changing in 2022. What do you think?
Like what Aaron sort of alluded to, people are meant to change. People are meant to evolve as time goes by. If you're still following quote unquote tradition right to the T, then it hasn't really done what it's meant to. And what it's meant to is to give you some sets of guidelines as a starting base, and then you further evolve from there. My thing with the Tongan values and traditions are quite simple, and I bring it back here. We have the 4 golden pillars, which goes, whakapaapa, wangawhātō ki lalo, tahi waha, and mamahi I mea. So you're talking about respect the first pillar is respect, to acknowledge and to return respect. Hanga whātōki lalo is to be humility, to be with humility, and to be open to learn. Tahi waha is to maintain relationship, forming and maintaining relationship. And mamahi I mea, to be loyal and devoted, and be passionate about whatever it is that you do. So when I think in terms of the 4 golden pillars of our principles, I very much like that. Now, how that manifests in the environment that we're in, whether we're in America, Australia, New Zealand, those things are still we're still able to follow those in terms of principle. We don't have to practice it in the way where in Tonga, I see certain things in terms of his interaction with his sisters. As long as the principles are there and are guiding how you look at the world, that's it. The tradition, no one's preaching, and stuff like that anymore. But the 4 golden pillars are still there. I also have a thing, because I have these conversations with a lot of the Tongan leaders here and the youth too, through the programs that we're running, is that we often get to a place where we use the morality of today to demonize yesterday. And what I mean by that is that we have evolved in terms of the values that we maintain and how we perceive things of the past. There's obviously things in the past that we can no longer maintain nowadays. And it's just due to human nature and evolution. But if we use the same morality of today to demonize the past, then we don't take anything valuable out of it. So yeah, my whole thing about the Tongan tradition and values is that I think if we really look at what's deeply rooted in those principles, I think that's the core takeaway that people can take away and say, hey, I may not be in Tonga, but I can still follow these principles and keep me close to whatever, to my culture. And obviously the language. There are 2 other things I got offer. So if you really dissect the 4 golden pillars, it's deeply rooted in love, to be honest. The way that we interact in the way where we're passing on our love for each other as a community, as a family, in a sense. But not only that, there's a big thing that is sort of evolving today, and I don't see it as much anymore, is that that's a very important concept that seems to be missing, and it's all around communication, just exactly as we're doing right now in the podcast. We're gathering around to share thoughts and ideas and to see where we might learn new things or improve on certain ways that we look at life. And this is why I'm deeply grateful for this podcast and the opportunity to come on, is that regardless of whether we have differing opinions, it's deeply rooted. If you look at it, it's deeply rooted within our culture in the way that we're able to sit virtually across from each other and share what it is that we know, and be willing to have someone attack those opinions and attack those values if they think it doesn't align with what they believe in. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. It's I keep it very simple, and I think the 4 golden pillars gives us some guidelines.
All right, no worries. Thank you, Daniela. Let me pass it to you, Angela. Angela, what's your initial thoughts about the topic? About Tongan standards, morals, and values changing in 2022. What do you think?
Well, when you approached me about what we were going to talk about tonight, I had to really think to myself, like, what are the morals, values, and traditions? I did grow up in Tonga here and there, and then I moved on to England, and then I came here. And really, I look at the Tongan morals, it was based on biblical truth. A lot of it is. And traditions are just things that we you're so used to doing. So I had to look at, like, okay, even our values about our family, love, respect, loyalty, and stuff like that. Has it changed? I think it has. And I think as time goes by, there is, depending on what family you come from and which part of the island you come from, or where you've lived in for so long, because wherever we live, our environment really does condition us. So I came to America and I learned that Tongan Americans here are very different from Tongan Americans in Australia in the way they carry themselves, their values, the way they present things, and even those in England are very different because the backgrounds are different. So of course we're going to come, but the core of it all is our morals. It seems like everything, it is biblical, but I believe when control, just for example, as a parent, I can teach great morals, and I can teach the word of God to them and morals and stuff. But when I can get to the part where I start teaching out of fear and teaching out of control because I'm insecure, or I fear the fact, oh my goodness, what if, I have all these insecurities. Then I start to teach not out of faith, but really out of fear, out of control. And then it really messes up the kids, and it makes, because some of it was also happened to me. Then I started to dislike the Tongan culture and the tradition, and the more I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous, but when the Lord got a hold of me, and I've come to know the Lord come to faith, I was amazed at how so many things and I'm going to ask, please excuse me, my children are still awake. We're celebrating my husband's birthday, so they're still in celebration mode. So I got to that point, I disliked it. But when I came to the faith, I started to realize so many things where the Tongan morals and values were coming from were really biblical standard, like honor thy mother and father, even though I never saw in the Bible, don't eat your father's leftovers and don't touch his hide and see, because I saw it as a sense of endearment, because my father and I are very close, and he's not he was born and raised in Tonga, but he's not that, so again, I never looked at that law as a tradition as a bad thing, because my dad didn't make it like, like I've seen some Tongan fathers do that. My dad was like, hugs me, kisses me, gives me a flower, calls me his princess. So it's, again, different families, right? And my mom is very cultural. She's rooted in culture. When I went to England for 8 years, my chaperone was my grandmother. And she was not a typical grandmother. She was, she started working as a bookkeeper in Tonga at those years, 50s, 60s, as a bookkeeper at 14 years old. So she was quite open-minded, but she did teach me the values, especially because they're biblical. Everything else didn't matter. And that's really my hope for my children, is that I'm teaching them the values of being loyal, keeping relations, and telling stories. We have been to funerals and they're like, do you have a relationship? I'm like, no, but let me tell you the story. This person who just passed away, when my father didn't have much, he came to this country, and this man, he didn't have the fare to do this, and it tells my children, I give my children history, and that keeps them humble and grounded. No, we are not all, no, just because we have a little bit of investment and some money doesn't make us better than anyone else. Don't forget where you came from. And that's something I learned from the Tongan culture. From my Tongan culture, is don't ever forget to tell the history, where they came from, because then they can't get too proud. Just remember, I came here, my parents came here. It was that, we had to struggle to be where we are today. And so there are many things I've picked up from our culture. It is and I believe our culture is beautiful. But again, when there's control and fear, and there's all the, the insecurities and the wanting, the power struggle, of course, and the lack of consideration. I don't, sorry, as my kids were singing happy birthday, I could hear someone's talking about the royal family, and we all have our thoughts depending on, how we were conditioned and where we're from. I've heard Tongan people saying, oh, why do we have to they're rich already. Why do we have to keep giving them all these things, right? I struggled with that almost my entire teenage life, and even in my 20s. Why do we keep giving this? Why do we keep giving all this misinale, getting to the root of what they mean? But again, I'm like, we're going to have to allow people, give grace to people, and allow people to learn for themselves. And hopefully know that traditions aren't there to keep you in bondage. it's a beautiful thing to have tradition. You know, I have tradition in my own little family about birthdays. They're beautiful. They give you good memories and stuff like that. But it's some traditions, yeah, you're gonna have to evolve. You're gonna have to change with the times, change with the culture that you're in, and things like. But I think from the beginning, it is a beautiful thing that was rooted in something good, but slowly people are misunderstanding what those values are and have lost those values also.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much, Angela. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for sharing your initial thoughts about it. So, and I think Too Wonderful had a comment in the live chat. I think Too Wonderful said, "Is there too much pressure on being traditional in terms of culturally traditional to go?" So, hey, thank you for your comment. I appreciate you. Too Wonderful always tuning in for the live show. And don't forget to like, subscribe, everybody. And I will post a public link. So if you guys want to jump on, you can definitely jump on. So yeah, I do have some specific things I want to talk about within the culture. Some things I hear a lot, not only in my personal life, but I do see a lot of the Pacific Islanders, especially talk about this on social media. I think Siasi brought up one of the topics I was going to share tonight. So let me play a quick video. I saw something on social media. A lot of Tongans were talking about it. One of the Tongan standards and the traditions that we carry out, especially how we separate the men and the women and the boys and the girls. So let me play the video real quick, and I'm gonna get you guys' reaction. What do you guys think about that specific tradition and Tongan standard? So play the video right now.
Culture, that's completely normal, you feel me? Like, I cannot just walk all up into my sister's room, and she cannot just walk all up into my room, you feel me? Girls and guys, separate rooms. If your house is big enough, separate bathrooms for girls and separate bathroom for boys. If you grew up this way, props to your parents for raising you that way, because in the Tongan culture, it's called whakaapa, you feel me? And yeah, the only time I will see my siblings, my sisters, is the dinner table when we're eating dinner, or I'll see them in the living room watching television. That's about it. I cannot just walk all up into their room and they cannot come to mine. That's just how it is.
All right, so that's this is a topic I saw a lot of people were talking on social media, and obviously I saw different opinions from Heta and Siasi. So I saw the comment section for that video. A lot of Tongans were saying that's tradition. That's how it's supposed to be. It's called whakapa'apa, respecting your boundaries as a boy and a woman. But then I also saw the other side of that conversation from that comment section. A lot of people were saying the same things that what Siasi was mentioning before on the podcast. It didn't create a strong, intimate relationship from the brother and sister, and then it kind of affected their relationship on a personal level. So this is something that I grew up in. I don't know if you guys grew up in it, but I'm assuming a lot of Tongans grew up in that way. A lot of people still respect it. The whakapapa, there's certain things that the men, the boys should be and behave, and the women should, the girls should behave. But I think what I'm starting to see in today's modern society, where it's more progressive, I'm starting to see the opposite, where the brothers and sisters are drinking now. I've seen Tongan brothers and sisters, they're clubbing together. They're openly talk about taboo topics. I think cursing, talk about sex, and all these things. So, but yeah, like I said, we're just here to have a conversation. What do you guys think? Is this should we keep to how we did it in the past, or maybe there's some things that we need to change within it, but still keep that soul? A lot of you guys mentioned still keep that value, but maybe we should change and be more willing to compromise on what things that we can allow the boys and the girls can do together. But in the Tongan culture, it's strictly separate. And I think that, like that guy mentioned in that video, the only time you get to see his sister was at the dinner table or while doing family prayer or going to church. So I know Siasi and Heta, I know you guys share your thoughts real quick. I'll come back to you guys, but let me get the opinions of the other guests, and let me know what you guys think. So I'll start with you, Angela. Angela, what do you think about the tradition? Separate rooms, boys and girls. The girls do not. The girls and boys are not allowed to engage with each other. And what do you think about that tradition? Is it something you think that we should keep, or something we should change? What do you think about that tradition, Angela?
The way it was put sounds so extreme. Unfortunately, I did not grow up with a brother. I was by myself. So, and I didn't really know that the tradition was, I just knew that they had whakaapa-apa. That's all I knew, and the fahu and the mehikitanga and stuff like that. But as far as how to live in a Tongan home, I'm so sorry. I cannot.
Okay.
Yes.
No worries, no worries.
But I do think that boundaries are important. Boundaries are important. But again, not out of fear, but maybe if they would talk to them, why? Because then I hear that there is the only thing I do remember hearing there is a history to why Tongans were like that. It was something to do with the king and his sister or something like that. Anyways.
Okay.
Boundaries.
No worries. All right. Let me pass it to you, Daniela. Daniela, real quick. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with a lot of our traditions that I personally believe in, is that our traditions were created out of a time where survival was the only thing that we were operating under. We didn't have time as men or to really sit down and be self-aware of what the actions are, how we're motivated biologically, certain things that are influencing us. So I think in that sense where a lot of tradition around whakaapa-apa towards your sisters and brothers, I think to me it makes sense in that sense, that you would put a guideline to the boys, hey, you're probably going to be at an age where your hormones are going to kick in and you want to do things that is not to be done in and around your sisters. So, I mean, can you imagine pre-colonial men sitting down having a talk about sex, which is something that I just recently had with my son. I started noticing that he's getting a bit more aggressive. There are certain questions coming across from him. So in terms of tradition, it's the same thing. We're changing it to suit the environment. Now we have more time. We can self-reflect. We can identify behaviors that are going to lead to certain things, certain consequences, I should say. So the thing with that video clip is that he wasn't able to explain other than use the word whakaapa-apa. But why do you whakaapa-apa? Why? Because you're male. There are certain things that will happen to you as you go through puberty, and those certain things will probably cause you to be a little bit more, dodgy towards female. And if that becomes your sister, that's a whole can of worms that no one's willing to go down. So I understand where the tradition comes from, but like Chelsea said prior, we're at a day and age where we can actually see these things happening. We have the time now that we can sit back and identify these behaviors and do it in a manner where we're actually having conversations with not only our family, but with the people around us. Traditions were there to guide our ancestors due to maybe a time that they couldn't have the freedom that we have now. But time has changed. We can still preach whakaapa-apa, but we have to add more to it. Why? Why do we pay respect to our sisters? Why do we pay respect to our brothers? Why do we respect our fathers? Why do we respect our mothers? And if you cannot explain it, then to me you shouldn't promote a tradition if you cannot explain it. Why is it that your children should follow a certain sets of tradition if you yourself cannot explain it? And yeah, that's how I look at it.
All right, no worries. Thank you, Daniela. Pass it to William. William, what do you think, William, about the tradition of separate rooms? I think you're on mute, Toko.
I think Daniela just summed it all in. I was having the same thought too. Like it's like respect, but like in our tradition, we're very strict on that. And so, what I think my problem is like I didn't know why. So with a lot of the traditions, so me being young, growing up, I learned it from my brothers. So even like the fahu, that's all the stuff I tell my brother. It's like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? If we don't have a kolofa tonga, like why we only like adopt certain tradition and like don't do that tradition, but we like do that one, you know, and like if we live tradition, we why we just adopt the whole things and we and so like for me personally, like I actually talked to my older brother and asked him about everything, and I feel like a shame because growing up in Tonga and I didn't learn all these things. Like I learned about the follow up and stuff, but I didn't understand why. I wasn't taught about the decision. Like Daniela is a, you know, it's I feel like it was just I wasn't I didn't learn. I was told, but I don't know why. I didn't understand why I was why, and the why wasn't explained until I came here and talked to my brother about it. So
Okay. No worries. Thank you, Sir William. Let me pass it to you, Celsi. Celsi, well, I know you have some strong thoughts about it. Do you think, Celsi, do you think that we should just scrap it and completely not carry out the tradition, or maybe there's a different way to do it, but still keep the principle of respect or fuck about? What do you think about that, Celsi?
Yeah, it's not a matter of scrapping it. And I go back to what Daniela said earlier about communication. It is most definitely what's missing in all that we're doing is full on having communication and truly understanding what's there for all of us and why we do certain things, right? Because if we don't understand what's behind it, then we can't move forward. But really, the missing ingredient here is communication to the fullest, right? And we're kind of sitting here trying to figure out what is and what is not. And we got to go back to the very basic of what's missing. And so far in all of our communication, what's lacking in every part of life and when we're taught is true communication. Like your what's his name just said, he was told how to do it, but there was no meaning behind it. He wasn't inspired. Like you're told what to do. Like it's the same old thing from the get-go, is that we get to tell you how to live life as the Bible has done. You get to do life the way I tell you how to do it. And it leaves creativity out. In other words, we don't have a life. You have no life when it comes to tradition because you're unable to create a life that matters to you. Unable to, because you're already told how to live life. And we're screwed when it comes to that. Because there's nobody that's willing to go outside of that little square that they had painted for us to live. And we'll talk about men in their old age that has left clues for us how to live life. And we're like 20,000 years ahead of time, and we're still living in something that's primitive. And we're trying to hold on to that. And I say, I want to live and be present in this moment of my life, not some life that was taught behind. This is about us. It's not about what was taught to us. This is the opportunity for all us men, women in the present time to live a life that matters to us. And if we're unwilling to be present with that, then you're just as lost as the person that has told you should live life this way. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but I want you to take a look. Whoever's listening, take a look. Do you want to live a life that is created, that you have created for yourself, and live your own standards in a way, or do you want to keep living a standard that some old man has gave you? Okay, I'll shut up now.
No worries, no worries. Mahalo Bito Celsi. Thank you for sharing that. And I think Too Wonderful had a comment real quick. Let me just read it real quick. I think he said, shoot. What did he say? There you go. Some families only adopt certain traditions to. Did it pop up? There you go. I'll come back to you. For some reason, your comments are coming up Too Wonderful. I'll come back and read it. Well, Heta, what are your thoughts, Heta, about the separate rooms? I know you big on the Fabapa and that standard. Go ahead, Heta.
Yeah, it just depends on the values, right? Because I mean, I'm big on that, but I'm also one of those that broke the boundaries. I I s- live out of my comfort zone. I go and I do the things that I want to do. Like go back to what Siasi's saying. You know, do the think I think raising our children, we have to give them the opportunity to think for themselves and experience things and let them go fall flat on their face, their faces, and let them learn. That's the only way to learn. When we make mistakes, when we fail, we look back, what do we need to adjust, and then we change. Some of our traditions, like I said, my son doesn't cuss around me at all because he knows. He would tell, he knows I am not welcoming to derogatory language. That's just me and my values. But also goes back because a lot of the things that I have, some of my values comes from the Bible. One thing that I will never give up is my faith. You can take away everything, but that's one that I will never give up is my faith. I am a person of faith. But in order, I totally agree with what Saucy say, um, but I think it's individually, right? Because in actuality, what we want for our children is to grow up and be positive, you know, independent thinkers that are become citizens who can contribute to the community, to the world, make a positive impact in the world, and also enjoy life and have peace and joy while they're doing it. Right. I don't know about you all, but for me, for my son, that's what I want to pass on to him. But it's like him when he's experiencing with, when he's experiencing with drugs, and teach him all don't do drugs. You can tell the kids don't do drugs, don't do drugs. But if they're around kids, other kids who are doing it, they're gonna get influenced, right? We do become the combined average of the five people we hang around with. So but I can't, like me, I some of our traditions in Donga, I firmly believe in. Like I said, certain things I just don't agree with. And I'm not going to change my mind for that. Like to sit at a table and just talking, dropping the F bomb and stuff like that, that's a no-no for me. That is unacceptable. So for me, just even our son, he's half Palangi, half Tongan, but he knows to respect his father. He knows he doesn't, but we let him talk and be honest, and we can have open conversation. He can talk about what he's going through or whatever he's experiencing in his life and where he is at his stage in his life. He's 27, still trying to figure out his life. But I think for us, instead of forcing it down, I think the misconception with our culture is that we try to force it down our kids' throat. And when we try to do that, they turn against it, you know. And that's go back to what Siasi said. Then relationship are not, there's no relationship, no interactions between siblings and stuff. But even in the Palangi culture, they don't boys and girls don't sleep in the same room. They have separate rooms. It's not just the Tongan cultures that have like girls sleep in separate room and guys sleep. I mean, that's just it's called space. Everybody got to have their own space. So um but anyhow, that's I think my opinion in it. And going back to our tradition in culture, we've lost in Tonga. We've lost a lot of it because when I grew up and I look back, really very much with our culture that were forced down people's throat. It's actually go back to what Angela says. Very biblical. We are the only I think country I know of that on Sunday shuts everything down. You know, nobody can conduct business on Sunday. But we have lost some of those traditions long time ago. Like some of the things I don't agree with it, and that's why I bumped against it. I just at a young age, like I said, I was fortunate. My father was very an open thinker and taught me to think for myself. And allow me to say what I truly feel when I was growing up. Um, that's my opinion.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much, Heta. Thank you for sharing it. Um, I'm gonna play. I'm gonna transition to the next tradition that I saw a lot of people were talking about, and this is the one that's like I guess that was the most viral. People were really talking about, especially on Twitter. Let me play that video real quick, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this one real quick. So let me play the video.
Waka vai moi tawa taina. Fai teri hapeta. Tau tupu teri sio na club. Ahoni. Kapate kon vai maybe. Maybe. Pako foka te kiga ko sapeta. Ko ahoni. O ma o moi tawa taina kakato. Yo moui. La que fai aqui a e que é tawa taina. E que fai dentro me agora tá ouvindo e ao. Mas tawa taina faca poto. Don't forget peta. Whatever you do.
All right. So whoever's uncle or father in that video, yeah, shout out to you. Thank you so much for sharing that video. But I want to ask you guys, because this is something I saw that was very trending on TikTok and on Twitter. A lot of girls who grew up in America were talking about the expectation of that they put on the daughters to stay virgins, to get the 21 key. When they become 21, they get their key. Is to and of course, they're finally becoming a woman. But a lot of the women were saying that the expectation for them to be pure, to save themselves for their husband, not being able to freely do what they want to do until they have to wait to 21, because in America, 18 is the adult age, or legally you can go out, do whatever you want. So a lot of the Tongan girls are saying, it's very suppressing to a woman. It limits her as far as opportunities, especially in today's culture where people are allowed to go out there and sexually explore for themselves. A lot of women are saying, like, why are they putting this expectation and suppressing me sexually and my options as a woman? And that was the feedback I saw in that video. So I want to ask you guys, what do you guys think about this? A lot of the Tongan women were talking about this. They think this is an old tradition that I think Xiaoxi mentioned, that old men in the past put on women that we still carry on today. But there's a lot of people very traditional were saying, there's the value of teaching that to your daughter is to save yourself for her husband, save yourself for a good man, for marriage, and also, like you said, allow the father to have a good relationship to direct you, especially even when you turn 18, you're still young and you still don't really know a lot of experience. So you should always look to your parents for direction. But I don't know. This was a conversation I hear back and forth, and this is the one of the biggest topic of traditions. I saw a lot of people, especially the Tongan women, talk about this. Some of them disagree about it; they don't like it. Some of them, they do see the value in it. But let me ask the women real quick, since you guys are ladies, what do you guys think about the tradition, Tongan tradition? Tawataha, you give them the key. It's finally your chance to be a woman and be a liberty. You can finally be an adult. And of course, there is expectation that you have to stay pure. And of course, save yourself for marriage. A lot of women, modern women in America, don't agree with that. What do you think about that, Angela?
I was going to say, you go ahead, Auntie Heta. Well, it goes back to what Daniela was saying. If you can't explain it, you can't promote it. I mean, it is a valuable thing. It's a very valuable teaching. Again, it goes back to the Word of God, and I say that because I grew up hearing that a lot, but no one ever explained to me. I mean, I would hear people talking about it, and oh, this girl was not, and that, oh, what a shame, and stuff like that. And I understood what they were saying, but I didn't understand why did someone lose their value because they weren't a virgin anymore, and so I didn't understand, even though I I mean, my mom and dad never told me that, but I just was like, I guess it's the right thing to do because my grandmother had taught me once or twice, and she never really outright said it, but it was always around me, the conversation. But it wasn't until I became a Christian that I was like, wait a minute, this is a biblical teaching. And it wasn't like, you cannot have fun, you cannot have this. And it was more like staying a maiden protects you, because whoever, you're going to go around laying with this person and that person. It's sharing your really a deep part of you. And what happens, you don't know where that, you don't know what the future holds. And not only that, it hurts you. And I have many friends who've been hurt by relationships and hurt because they didn't wait for the right person. They did not wait for the right time, and so really that when fathers and mothers are, and it's kind of like a contradiction also. You can, don't do this and don't do that until you're 21, then go ahead and freak out and do whatever you want. What a thing to teach, and then you're thinking, what was the value of that? So she was under your guidance as a father, under your blessing, and under the, under your watch. You are the protector, the provider, and the priest of your home. But now she hits 21, you're going to let her just go out like that, instead of giving her the guidance and the reason why must a young woman keep herself pure? And really, the purity, it really, the husband is not the one that gains the status or gains for whatever, or saving yourself for him. It's really an obedience, and it's saving yourself the pain, saving yourself the mental and emotional and all the things that comes with sharing your body with so many others. But anyways, so I do believe it's a great value. But again, it was taught wrong. I believe it was taught wrong. It was just told, just do it, dictate it to you, and you just do it. And so what else are they going to do? They're going to rebel because they have no understanding of what it is. It is to protect them. Rules, I tell my children this, rules are not to hurt you. They're not here to make me feel like I am this puppeteer that, you're my puppets. They are here to guide you. Don't touch what is hot. When mommy says no one time, because if something happens, if you're running towards a car and I see a car and I say, stop, my hope is you would stop, trust my voice and stop. That you won't be like, but why? Because again, it goes back to what Xiaoxi and Danielle, conversations. Having conversations with your children. It's the same thing. Having conversations with, why is it do you keep yourself pure? Is to save yourself with the right person who is worthy of what you have held onto, and what your mother and father has raised you up is so much value. It is not easy to raise up a young woman with so many values at this day and age, but if you would have this character, this wonderful character, this wonderful, like respect for yourself, then, of course, then that's something no one can take away from you. Because I tell you, from experience, it's your wedding night and the next day, to see my mother and father, and they know I was real rebellious, but to see the joy, and it wasn't for and I can see some mothers and fathers, it was more about pride, like, oh, I'm so proud my daughter's a virgin, and that pride comes before the fall, but grace comes, for those who are humble. So for me, it kept me safe. It kept me safe. And at the same time, I was just saying to my parents, thank you for teaching me what is right and for helping me keep myself, and therefore feeling safe and respectful of myself.
All right, no worries. Angela, thank you for sharing it. I like what you said, it's not about saving yourself for a man, but saving yourself from pain. I like that. Let me pass it to you, Xiaoxi. Xiaoxi, what do you think, Xiaoxi? I know you have a daughter, 21 key, the expectation to stay pure. What do you think about that tradition, Xiaoxi?
I have it. It's a beautiful thing, in a sense, right? I can only tell you, I've gotten married once, and my wife Ida was that. And I get only what I saw, and I'm just going to speak from my experience of what this is. It was the experience of having her mother and her father feel proud. It made him feel good that she was obedient enough that she would keep that for one particular individual. And at the other side, who wouldn't be much more happier than my parents knowing that it took place? That actually somebody saved herself for me. And on the other hand, I'm that one guy that was going around and doing what I'm doing. But there's a sense of false. There's a sense of false, like we want, it's like we all get married and put on a little white, there are girls that get married in America, they go have sex for 20, 30 years, and then they go back to get married and put on their little white veil as if they were in Hollywood. It's that. Like somebody has created this whole new thing and like we have to follow. And it's cute and it's beautiful, but that's not what's happening in reality. Right? The reality is like we're all male and we're all female and we do what we do as human beings. Right? Once we can get that across people's head and going back to we're gonna do what human beings do. Right? And it's very simple. We go find people we love and we interact and we do what we do. Be okay with that. And let's not live in this Hollywood fairy tale of that we're all going to get married and be a certain way. And make everybody behind me and my parents and everybody else around them celebrate this wedding and no longer make it about the couple, but make it about their happiness and how well they done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely makes sense.
It's cute and it's pretty in the sense of like Hollywood lifestyle, and that's exactly what it is. It's like let me print you up, like let me hold you up like a little princess, and at the end, I'm going to give you away to a man that's been around with other women. I got it. It's cute.
All right.
The crazy part is like I've taught my daughter to respect herself. And at the same time, the value of me telling my daughter the precious thing about her and who she is as a woman and how she can contribute to herself and contribute to those around her is the most important part. What she does with that information is hers. It has no concern of mine. No concern. What she does with her life and the way she carries herself is hers. I don't get to dictate how that goes. And in the world that we live in, that you're going to be 21 and you get to save yourself, like who's living the life and who's like sitting around pretending? So I say, let's get back and live a life that actually works here in reality and not a pretend life. Like it's real. It's real.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing us, Yossi. And if you're watching this on live chat, let me know what you guys think. I always appreciate your feedback on and if you're the people that like as Yossi mentioned, some people out there that have fun and then they put the veil when it's time. So definitely know people like that. But let me pass it to you, Heta. Heta, what do you think about the tradition of the Tongan tradition for women to stay pure all the way to 21 when they get their kita wataha?
For me, it's forget the show. You need to forget the show, and you need to teach your daughters to have self-respect for themselves. And whether they decide to have premarital sex or not, it's their decision. At that age, they're in control of their lives, but realize the consequences that come with doing that, before marriage. You either might end up with a child and you might end up raising that child by yourself, and it's expensive and costly to raise a child by yourself, or you end up getting some kind of sexual disease that you don't want. you know like for me, my parents never mentioned that to me at all. they my parents were kind of unique. They raised me to think independently and do my own thing, right? Allowed me to think for myself. And I think that's why I'm kind of like, not, I'm Tongan. They're both Tongan, and I adopt some of our cultures and some of it, our traditions, some of it I don't, because I don't agree with that, right? But my husband is my only boyfriend and my the only man I ever slept with, right? When that's probably one of the reasons why he has a lot of respect for me, and we're still married after 32 years. You know, some things, you grow in love and you grow in respect for each other and build that trust and relationship and friendship. But as a girl, teach your girls to respect, because when they have their own self-respect, if they respect themselves, they'll know, they'll let them think for themselves, instead of trying to because I think that's a problem with our culture. It's like all about shows and putting it out on YouTube for everybody la di see, and waste a lot of money and all of that, right? It's just feed your family, make sure there's a roof over their head, and teach them the values instead of forcing it. Allow them to think. Teach them right from wrong, as you know, and let them think for themselves and experience life.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much, Heta. Appreciate that. I'll pass it to you, Daniela. Daniela, what do you think, Daniela, about the Tawataha expectation for women to stay pure?
Yeah, it's not a unique thing to us Tongans. I guess the whole show, the celebration is what's unique. But if you look all across multiple cultures, they practice similar things to a certain extent, especially around women and especially around daughters. I agree with the concept. I agree with the concept that fathers should look towards how they interact with their daughters, what sort of lessons they're passing on to their daughters, teaching self-value and respect for oneself. And I mean, we all know what the consequences is of sex, and not only that, for women who have sex with the wrong guy. Your Heather's touch on that. You could end up raising a child on your own. It's not an easy task for anyone. So I agree with it, and I agree with what the panel have been saying, is that we also need to communicate with our daughter. I have a 3-year-old, 4-year-old now, baby girl, and these are very important things that we're talking about, because that will be my way of sort of looking at the world and how I pass on certain teachings to her. So I think we touched on this a while ago on a not so similar podcast, but to me, I think how fathers should interact with their daughters is not so direct, but it's the way they treat the woman that is meant to be their mother. Whether you're in a relationship or not, if you treat her with respect, I think that, personally think that your daughter will grow up to see how their mother interacts with you as a father, and that should at least help them provide a metric for them to look for whoever it is they want to be with in the future. In terms of this tradition, it's not unique to us, and I think this is what I got a bit of flack for in your TikTok, is that when you ask me the question, what's so unique about PIs, is that we're not really unique. We practice certain different practices, and we have different customs and stuff like that may be classified as unique. But really, when you look at a lot of our values and principles, they are all across a vast majority of the world, whatever race and out there in the world, they practice similar things. So when we look at purity and when we look at womanhood, unfortunately, we are now with the generations who no longer value what it is that they have, both male and female, and why it is valued in the first place. So yeah, I agree with the tradition. Maybe not the way it's been practiced, because it's almost like the reaching the milestone of the 21st is what's so important, rather than it's the journey that the father and the daughter walks through life, and how they interact. What are the lessons being passed on? How is that lesson being passed on? And that's where I value that tradition. The whole show thing, I really don't care much about, putting on a big show and inviting all the families. At least when my daughter gets to 21, we can sit down, have a nice dinner, and say, "Hey, the world is your oyster. I hope what you've learned over the years that you've spent time with us have been valuable to you. Now you go and make a decision that ultimately is going to affect you for the rest of your life, and we'll be here to support you." So yeah, that's what I value out of that.
All right, no
Can I
worries.
just say something real quick? I remember when I turned 21, my father was like, he just asked me, "What do you want to do?" And I said, I knew this Faifekau and his family, we were a little bit better financially than they were. And I said, "Why don't you just take, I asked him, can you just give them donation? Take the money that you're going to spend on my birthday and give it to them and ask him to pray for me." That's all I wanted for my 21st birthday. It's just like, I think it depends if you teach your kids young, like Siausi said, to make an impact in the world and leave a legacy, is to start young and you do that for others instead of selfishly wanting to a big show.
Okay. All right. No
Can I
worries.
jump
Thank you.
in real quick? You're going to have to take a look, because this is I think the third or fourth time that I hear you mention that we're not unique. You're absolutely right, we're not unique. We Polynesians are extraordinary. You get that? It's who we've come, how far we've come that makes us extraordinary. Unique of small people. You can take your unique and keep it to yourself. I have it for extraordinary people. You take a look around in America and how far Polynesian has come. It takes extraordinary people to reach that status. You're right. We're not unique. We are extraordinary people. And I have it's the way that we communicate and we keep ourselves low. You keep speaking that language, we remain. You remain, and you no longer push us who we could be. And that's why I want you to redefine, take a look and redefine how you look at we as individuals and we as Polynesian people that have come from a small little island that is barely on the map and make a name for ourselves here in the States. You're 100% right. We are not unique. Goddamn extraordinary people. I just want that to make sure, because I keep hearing that, and there's something about being not.
No, I agree. Now that I agree with. I agree that we're extraordinary people, and that we, regardless of whether we're unique or not, and my own opinion on that is clear, but we are extraordinary.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess that's where people fail to notice, is that whether you're unique or not doesn't really matter. Extraordinary comes from effort that has been put in by ancestors, ourselves, generations to come. Extraordinary comes from effort. Uniqueness comes from something that is arbitrary and it's whatever you inherit it. So, Siausi, I absolutely agree. So you've completed what I should have said, that we're not unique yet. We're extraordinary people.
But I'm gonna put in some new term that maybe you can start using. We are uniquely extraordinary. You got that? Polynesian people are
Love that.
and not just unique. I love you.
Yeah,
Right.
it's self-perspective, right? It's when we're looking at the mirror, what are you looking at when you're seeing yourself? Because you think, and is it Think and Grow Rich? Or, where we are today is where our thoughts have brought us, right? And so if you think of yourself and you see yourself as a small person, you will always be a small person, right? That's why I'm proud of where I am today and what I've accomplished so far, because I always like to cut through the barrier. Just try it, Um, try new things. I'm in an area where I have no experience, but unless you step outside of the box and break that tradition, you're always going to be stuck in that little box. I see it in some of my nieces and nephews. It's like they're comfortable where they are, so they will never step out of that box and try and realize there's a whole big world out there. This is how I push my son to go experience life, right? But he keeps coming back. And it's like, can you go out there and experience life, live on your own, fail, whatever. That's the only way to succeed is to fail so many times.
All right. No worries. I had a question for before I go to William. I had a question for Chelsea. So I know me and Daniel have talked about this, but I do agree that we are extraordinary people. But I guess my thought to that is we're extraordinary because I think everything in life, and if we can achieve anything in life, um, if we're willing to earn it. But I do see that if we keep saying that, I do see a lot of Pacific Islanders because they've heard that their whole life. Oh, you're extraordinary, 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 and they believe they have this false sense of illusion that they are. But the reality is, if you look at the decisions and what they've done, it is not extraordinary. But they believe it though. So I think for me is like we are extraordinary people because we have great history of great people that we have come from. We have great ancestors that have done great things, and that's why we are living here today, and that's why we are alive today because we are here because of the efforts of our fathers and great grandfathers of what they've done to get us to this far. But to continue it is going to require, I think, like Daniela said, it's going to require effort. But I can't just assume that I'm extraordinary of the efforts of my ancestors in the past. If I want to continue on that extraordinary legacy, I have to work for it. And if I don't work for it, I cannot call myself extraordinary. I have to earn that. It's not like everything in life. It's not given. It has to be earned. Like what do you think about that? Because I do hear that some people just think like that.
It could be right, but you want to take a look. I mean, it is in who you are and who you get to become for yourself and for others that allows you to be extraordinary. It's in your language that has you be extraordinary. It's the way that you listen to people and the way people hear you for who you are and your contribution to life that makes you extraordinary, not how far you've gotten. Right? Not how far you've gotten, because we don't get to go anywhere. But when you get to contribute to people's life that transform them from one point of their life to the next part, that's what matters. But I have it in our conversation, the way that you ask your question is like, there's somewhere to be gotten to. We have to get somewhere. Where the hell is that place? Where
Purpose.
the hell are we all looking for that we all have to, I want to be extraordinary, so I want to do a certain thing. How are you measuring extraordinary?
Purpose.
We all have our own purpose, and that's the part that you're going to have to take a look. We all have purpose. We all have purpose. You have a purpose, and your purpose is to make sure that this program here surpasses, right? What about somebody's purpose is just to hang out and be with their family? Does that not make them extraordinary? What about if somebody just wants to work 9 to 5, make just enough that he doesn't have to do any more? To him, that's extraordinary. Well, last week you guys had talked about, many weeks ago, you guys had talked about men in Tonga that doesn't want to, that there is nothing to build for the future. But yet they kept tradition alive. That's extraordinary, not for you, but for that one individual. So you have to take a look. What the hell is extraordinary, and what makes you so extraordinary? I have it is you're listening to yourself in the way that you speak to people that has people take on, wow, look what I can do with this. And how you inspire people to take on the next step in life. Because there's nowhere to be gotten, to be getting to. What amount of money would you have to be extraordinary? Or how many people can I transform? How many people can I inspire? How many people can I get them to be present to what's possible at this moment and what they can do with the possibility? That, my friend, would have you be extraordinary. But as long as you sit here and you put a standard up here that cannot be measured, you ain't doing nothing but sitting around talking about being extraordinary.
All right. Well, no worries. No worries. Thank you so much, Chelsea. I know it's a lay. Fawcett said, yes, live in reality, educate for us, inform and support children, teach traditions, allow for them to evolve to fit the needs and values of the family, keeping them, be the example, and nurture individuality. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. It's a late shout out to you for being on the podcast for the first time seeing on you. And yeah, thank you so much. Let me pass, and of course, let me pass it to you, Liami, before we move on to the next topic. Liami, what's your thoughts on the 21 key? I know we had some side conversations, but we definitely came back to you. Liami, what's your thoughts, Liami? You're on mute, Togo. Oh, you're still on mute. Still on mute, Togo. Okay, we'll definitely come back. We'll definitely come back to you, Liami, once you fix that. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm gonna move on to our final topic. It's actually this topic. Actually, I saw it was a video I saw going viral on TikTok. That one of these Tongan girls was talking about. It's actually something that Chelsea, you kind of mentioned it already when you were sharing your opinion about the 21. You said that when you got married to your wife, she was pure, but then of course you were doing your thing out there. So there's a lot of there's a lot of women out there that brought up this topic. A lot of Tongan girls that had they don't like how there's separate expectations for men and women. Let me just play the video real quick. But this is something that was causing a lot of stirring the pot, especially among the Tongan men and women, because they see how they see things here in America. So let me just play the video real quick.
But the moment a woman does it, it's almost like, oh, she the biggest hoe. That's why she got 3 kids. And that's why she looked like that.
Hey. So I saw this video. So it was going viral on social media. So a lot of the girls are saying, hey, how come the Tongan parents let the boys do whatever they do and it's okay, but how come they're very strict on their daughters to stay home and they can't go out there and do what they do, like you mentioned, like the boys, and they have to save themselves for marriage. So if the woman does it, they have to save themselves for marriage, but if the boy does it, it's okay. So obviously we live here in America where it's very they're pushing for equality. There's women can do the things that men do, men can do the things that women do. So it really depends on you what you guys think. But I know in the Tongan culture, this is what we're taught, that there's certain things that men can do that women can't do. There's certain things that women can do that men can do. But a lot of the Tongan people that live in America, what Western society tells them that we can do both. So what are your thoughts about that? Because that video didn't play the full clip. For some reason, that video didn't continue on. But it was a Tongan girl. She was talking on the podcast. She was like, "Hey, how come when I do things that the boys do, I get judged for it, but if the boys do it, they're high five and hey, good job, buddy." But I want to ask you guys, what do you think about that? But since you did bring it up, Chelsea, what do you think about that, Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, what do you say? I mean, it's we've lived in a world of double standards.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. Unless we men are willing to transform that part of it, it's going to take some work. It's really going to take some work for have men really take a step back and really think about the action that they're doing. Right? 100%. I mean, majority of women get the blame for like breaking up relationships and being the bad seed in the world because they've done what they've done in terms of they've had sex with one or many men. And what we're learning these days is that women are going to do what women do. There's no difference with women here in America than women in Tonga. When I go back to Tonga, there's no difference. We just keep it. We hide it better. Like, get that. We're all human beings. Like I said, we all do what human beings do. Like, when you tell somebody, like, don't eat on the chair, guess what they do? They eat on the chair. Right? And it's just the way that it's just the way that life is. And there's no good or bad things. And when we can understand that we just do what human beings do, then it becomes okay. But we live in the world of pretending that we Tongans are up here and most of everybody's down here. Take a look. Take a real good look. And you go back to the islands in the way that it is, the way females are, it's just, they're just as progressive as people here. Right? And that's just the reality. And you have to take a look. And if you want to turn a blind eye, then turn a blind eye. But the reality is that women in Tonga want the same thing. And that has never changed. It's something that happens. It's humanity. That's it. We just do what people do. It's like, I don't want to say, but what's that we want to do what people do or animals do in the Discovery Channel.
All right, I know.
Because it's natural. And if you're going to sit around and deny that, you have to get a reality check, right? And you might have to stay away from church for a little bit to really understand the life that's happening, the purity and the true things that are happening, the reality of life and what's really going on is when we become ourselves as human. Okay. We can pretend or we can move on.
All right. Thank you for saying that, Chelsea. All right. Maybe pass it Heta. What do you think, Heta? There's a lot of Tongan women. They're upset. If the boys do it, it's okay. If the girls do it, there's gonna be some criticism that's gonna come her way.
I agree with Chelsea. I mean, double standards. I mean, we're human beings are born to mate, period. That's keep the reproductive cycle going, and evolution's got to go. But to me, it goes back to you individually as a person, how you think of yourself. Now it may feel great, but do you look into the future? 10 years from now, looking back, are you going to regret the decisions you make? If not, then move forward. It's your life. Live it the way you want it. Look, we all have one life, but if you do it right, the way you want to live your life, once is enough. So for me, self-respect. If you want to do something, go do it. You'll never know what it's like on the other side unless you try it. So, different values. For me individually, to be honest, I didn't have time. I didn't have time to I didn't worry about dating and stuff. I was just worried about, okay, how can I earn money? What are the opportunities out here in this country, and where can I go find it? And I left home and joined the army. You know, that's my own concern. But as far as sleeping around, I didn't do that because it made me, just like Angela said, I didn't want to just go sleep with anybody and just give my body to somebody that I hardly know. It's my self respect and my values. And plus, I did not want any disease from anybody, because nobody really, do you honestly, when you get ready to have sex with someone, do you tell that woman how many women you've slept with? No. Or does that woman tell you how many guys she slept with? No. You know, um, self value. I mean, self respect and self value. That's, my opinion on that. Let them live
Hey,
their own lives.
that's some powerful thing that you just said, like self-value. Powerful. It's very powerful. I mean, imagine teaching that to all the generation of who you are and what you value. You value self, not things and not, yeah, powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Heta. Let me pass it to you, Daniel. Daniel, what do you think? What do you think? A lot of Tongan girls are, a lot of progressive Tongan women in the Western society. They're upset, that they see their brothers doing what they do, and then but they're told a different expectation. What do you think about that, Daniela?
I think it's not just the traditional Tongan sort of expectation. It's all across the board. Like a vast majority of these expectations that we put on each other it's all across the board, right? We Tongans practice it. A lot of other culture practice it. And I agree, double standards exist, and they exist due to biological risk, especially when it comes to sex. I understand the conversation when it comes around evolution and wanting to explore who you are as sexually as a human being, but it's the expectations are there. Although they may not be the same for a male, they are still there. So, for example, we do shame men who whine and cry about not having any luck with females, and yet they don't go out into the world and stand on their own 2 feet. We often use the word, classify them as real men, so there's that expectation. It's the same thing when we look at women in general. When we talk about, okay, please be careful, because if you do get pregnant, how do you know that he's going to stick around? So this is not just the expectation that we should give onto women, but especially within our own family dynamic. Say for my daughter, I'm not going to just say to her, don't go sleep around, because that's how we look at you. The reason why you shouldn't go and sleep around is that, how do you know that the guy's going to stick around? Do you know that you'll be able to survive with a child? How comfortable are you looking after yourself and another human being who's very much dependent on you? So here are some things that we should do, right? Here are some certain principles and values that should help you vet men. So if you do decide to have premarital sex, at least you know that he's going to stick around if that was the consequence of whatever it is that you're pursuing. But in terms of just shaming a expectation, I can, to a certain extent, sort of see why the progressive crowd sort of look at it in that way. But also at the same time, I find no excuse. I find no excuse in the sense that we all have information, and we have access to information. If you're going to pursue an action, at least find out the consequences of those actions and be in a position to say, I'm going to decide for myself to do this as a human being. I should 100% accept whatever the consequences is, even if I know I bear all the risk. So, unfortunately, we have generations who just whine about why there are certain expectations without sitting down and analyzing why it's there in the first place. And then when the consequence comes and they bear the risk, they also complain at the same time. Why is it that I bear all the consequences? You know the decision you made it fully aware, you now face the consequences and the risk that comes with it. You shouldn't whine. Yeah. So, I mean, double standards exist. They exist for both men and women, and it was used to at least sort of guide men and women in a sense where, in order to bear children and to bring forth a family, these are the expectations that you should have, and if you deviate from it, your own society will shame you purely out of the risk that you've taken for yourself. Whether I agree with it or not, that's a different discussions, but it's there for a reason. At least find out the reasons before you complain.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Daniela. I'll pass you, Angela. Angela, what do you think? What do you think about this topic?
I'm actually writing notes just to let you guys know. So valuable things that you guys are saying. I'm learning. I'm writing and learning. Well, of course, you guys have all said there's double standard all across the board, right? And it's not just the Tongan culture; it's every culture, even here in America. And it is true what Salsi said. Like, we sit here as Tongan women and think we're victims of this, and it's not like Americans, but Americans go through the same thing. Different cultures go through the same thing. Why are men allowed this and men, this? So there comes a couple of things I wanted to mention is, like, we all have expectations, I mean, maybe men expect women to be pure, and women expect that you are going to, whether we're married or not, you're going to spoil me, you're going to take care of me. So there is a double standard there, right? I'm going to allow myself to do this, but you better hold up the standard, dude. Like if you're going to have all this. So I see that that sense of women who have this pride and expectation, but really, I think what I wonder is, are we supposed to teach them just to stay pure for the sake of staying pure? And we've already mentioned this before, but really the reason behind it. Or maybe we should teach them something that you guys have all said, talking about self-value, being aware of themselves. Because if they're busy about the right things and the things that matter and really living out their purpose in life, who's got time to do all that nonsense? You know what I mean? Because the right person will pursue you. I always tell this to my girlfriends and who have not gotten to that place yet, who are praying. I'm like, position yourself where you're supposed to be. Don't sit here and expect this, right? If you want a gentleman, you better act like a lady. And so it's wrong for us sometimes as women to be like, I'm going to go and do all this stuff, but yet I better have a man that is successful in whatever the world says it's successful, because everybody, you have to define that, because to some of us, successful is someone who is impacting other people's lives, living for others, really sacrificing their life for their family, all these things. And others, maybe their success to them is finding a man who owns his own business and has millions of dollars, driving a Corvette, whatever it is, right? But as a young woman, if we are busy, and just, if we're busy about what we're supposed to be busy about, we don't have time for nonsense. And that doesn't mean we're high and mighty, but it's more of in a humble way of, my mom and my dad raised me. They didn't get me here by picking money off the tree. They worked hard to give me this. So what am I going to do with it? What is the future that I'm supposed to work towards? Because like Auntie Heather said, like for me, I was there, and it wasn't really just an expectation. Is my mom and dad were just like, you know what? I have this opportunity in England. You're going to come with me. You're going to go to school. So I was busy, and I saw my mom going to school. She was in her late 30s and already going for her degree as a lawyer. And I'm like, oh, I want to have a degree. I mean, it's, who you surround yourself with. What are the people around you being busy about? And this is where it says, you hang with fools, you become a fool, but you hang with the wise, you will be wise. So from a young age, that was something that was ingrained into me. Choose your friends wisely. And so I just saw, we have a conscience. The girls that are nonsense, the conversations, you don't want to be around that. So you shift on to the next one. You find the girls that you're like, they're going somewhere, and you cling to them. And you start to surround yourself with, it doesn't matter what culture you're from, whether you're Tongan or not. Most of my friends were, and when I was in England, most of my friends were Africans and Indians, and like they were very cultural. But they all came because their parents spent money to educate them. So they only had one thing on their mind: to finish school, to go back, to carry their legacy of their parents. And so because I surrounded myself with those people, I was just like, oh yeah, I gotta be busy about this. I'm going to start talking about the future. And, and not to say that it doesn't matter, but the thing is, us as women, we forget that instead of whining about the things that are expected, they expect of us, we have a responsibility to ourselves. To no matter where you are in your faith and religion, to the Lord, for me, God created me for a purpose, not to be just anybody, to be extraordinary in whatever the calling is, right? I am Tongan, but to be extraordinary in my purpose. And so when you're busy about those things, I ain't got no time to do things and then whine about it, and I think, yes. So anyways, that's my little snippet.
Uniquely extraordinary.
Uniquely extraordinary. I apologize, Elsie. Yes.
It's so beautiful. This maybe have to be a new conversation. As we're talking about it, what comes to mind is that we're never ready to be married. Nobody's ever ready because nobody has actually sit us and teach us about ourselves, what stops us, what has us move us, the things that we'll confront about it. We don't get to deal with self first. And when you're talking about value, it's part of that is understanding what takes me and what keeps me going and how to control yourself. Nobody, can't say nobody, but for example, just myself, right? I didn't know how to be married. I had no idea what that means. All I know is that I've been taught to get married and do certain things. But there is the way that I showed up in every part of my life when I was confronted. I didn't know how to react to that. Like when she says this, I react with, oh, I will beat your ass. When she doesn't do what I asked, like, I'm the man of the house. You're supposed to listen to me. It's the things that we're confronted about life. I have it that if we go back and take care of that, then we're ready to have a relationship. Because you can't have a relationship where you're constantly like going head to head with resisting, right? But if we can remove ourselves in the way that we're taught to be different in the way that we react to our chaos of life, then we've done something. Then we become different and not end up the way we wound up being. So how do we prepare the next generation to make sure that they can see themselves from who they are and who they're not, and to see them in the future of what they want to become in here, and how they can discover what is a peace of mind. How do we teach that they can deal with themselves in the middle of chaos, in their present, and not stuck in their head with their emotions?
Right. And
So
I
that we can
totally
deal with
agree
the
with
emotions.
that. Yeah, I totally agree with that, Xiaozi, because that's how we pass on our traditions and values, right, to our kids. And some of it they may take it and run with it, some of it they may not. But for me, this is something I had to go out and find of myself, but I'm very clear about my purpose now.
Right.
My purpose is to build others up so positive change can ripple throughout the world.
Yeah.
That is my purpose. I wake up with a passion to do that every single day. And I've already started in EY, right? Giving presentation about Clifton strengths, because that's why I am so firmly believe in that, because that helps. I teach that to EY people, right? Then those people can make positive impacts, then help
You're
them
right, son.
shift the way that they look at the world, right? Because growth comes from the inside out,
100%.
not from the things outside that we get. That means absolutely nothing, you know. But I think the legacy that we want to leave behind, because material things dissolve, legacy you want to leave behind is how you make an impact in this world. Did you leave it better off when you're gone from this world? Is this world better off because you were in it? I think those are the kind of values we need to pass on to our children, but we need to
Right.
help them to understand how they see themselves, what values do they see in themselves, right? Looking in the mirror, I mean, it's like my mentor, John Maxwell, says, you can't, you must see value in yourself to add value to yourself. And in order to do that, it'll be difficult to pass on traditions in explaining to the kids.
Right. Can I just share one thing? Thank you for sharing that. So I had posted something this morning. I woke up and it was in my head, and it's all about dealing with self. So what I wrote is, happiness is a reward of having the ability to deal with life's adversity powerfully. Because when you're present in the middle of your chaos, you then have the ability to deal with what's going on with you and not with your emotion. And I could only wonder, what would the next generation have if we're able to teach them in a way that they get who they are and how powerful they are and how powerful their mind is once they have a choice, once they know that they have a choice in how to be and to do the things that they can have. How
And
powerful
also
that.
have the and I think and also have the grace to accept what they cannot change, right?
Ooh,
Realize
100%.
that.
Yeah,
Hey,
and I think that may be something that we might want to talk about down the line is what and how can we teach the next generation? Like going back to what you talk about here, the self-development. How do we get them to be present with self-development? They can train and develop themselves to become different in life, so that we have a better community, we have a better world, and we're not having this discussion about somebody's wrong and somebody's right and somebody's wrong and somebody's right. Like, what do we do with the next generation to have them be so empowered that when we pass away, like, we have left a footprint, and the footprint is generation to come that are powerful in the mindset that they pass on what's been taught to them.
Totally. I totally agree with that, CLC, because what I hear a lot of the times for young women my age, I mean, I'm in my 40s, and I hear a lot of women complaining about the Tongan culture, complaining about the mindset and why are Tongans not successful? Why are Tongans like, why are we also behind? But if we would just shift their mindset, and instead of, I mean, we can only take what we've been given now. It's our turn now to take the baton and run forward. And that's where I believe personal development is such a huge thing. My Auntie Heta, if you guys didn't know, this is my mom's sister. Auntie Heta was my mentor. And I remember in my business, so I'm in network marketing. I have a product to offer. And for me, I'm a networker, even way before that. I love traveling. I love talking and spending time with each other and with people and building relationships, but and somehow, like, I felt like I wasn't aware. I was not having grace on myself and the things that had already happened, the things that I lacked. And that was one thing, when you're aware of yourself and have grace on yourself, and then you can move forward and say, this is what I have. What can I do with it? Instead of complaining about what I don't have and what I cannot do, and work on my strengths and my gifts. Perfect those. I mean, you never be perfect, but really work on those things. And you will find that, like you said, Xiaoxi and Heather, you will find as you do that, as you develop yourself and grow and have grace on yourself, you learn to have grace on others. You learn to have grace on others. You learn not to look inside, because the more we look inside and look at me all the time, depression comes, stress comes. Because you'll never find what you're looking for. But when you're looking out, how can I help a neighbor? How can I help you? What is it that you want? Let's sit and let's communicate here. Let's have a conversation. You make somebody else's day. You help them have a better day. You walk away thinking, life, happiness.
That's it.
The pursuit of happiness. Yeah, like you've
That's
just
a whole
made
different
someone
conversation.
smile. Right. So.
Yeah, it's a whole different kind of conversation. I mean,
Will, can you write that down, please?
Yeah.
Write that on the agenda, please.
Yeah. Sorry, Will, we kind of stole your show for a little bit.
No, it's good. No, it's good. It's good to hear from everybody. Thank you so much for sharing. I think somebody sent me a question. I just want to ask you guys one question before we conclude, because I know it's about almost time. I know we talked about the morals and values, the standards, Tongans, the things that we grew up in. Some things that we agreed on, some things we disagree, some things that we agreed that, maybe we should work on it and change. And I think Xiaoxi brought up a great point that, we need to focus on the next generation of focusing on solutions, what they can do so we can improve it. But we all live here in Western society. So I guess the question I had for you, that some people were asking me on my Instagram, are there certain things that you see in Western society that you feel like maybe that's trickling into our community that's starting to become normalized, that you feel like it's harming this generation, or maybe it's harming our future? I think the best one I can think of, and it's something I disagree. I believe in double standards, in how there's certain things that men can do and there's certain things that women can do. Even though we're all equal, we should all be treated equally as human beings. But I think in a society that tells boys act like girls and girls act like boys, I think there's a consequence, not only biologically, but emotionally, psychologically. I think there's a certain level that we have to treat boys to be boys so they can grow healthy to be strong men, and treat girls to be girls so they can grow up to be great women. But I do believe in double standards. So, but I do see a lot of Tongans today, the very progressive Tongans that are starting to adopted the ideology of, there's no such thing as biological differences, and a boy can act like a girl act like a boy. There's no consequences until by reality that there
You're
is.
going to get us all into trouble here, Will. Are you
No,
serious?
that's
You're
just
going to
me.
get all political here. Just kidding.
But
Just
that's
kidding.
like
I'm
I
just
said.
teasing.
Yeah, that's
Can I
something.
just
That's a
can I just
reality.
quickly ask
That's not
you?
political.
Because
That's just a reality.
can I just ask you? You said you believe in double standard. I mean,
biological double standards.
Okay, like differences. That's what you just said.
Yeah, biological difference, and there's certain things guys can do, and there's certain things women can do. But like I said, as a human level, I'm not saying we should all be treated equally as human beings, have the same rights,
Got it.
value as a human being. But there's certain things like a
So
woman
your
can do that.
your initial question is: are there things in the Western
Yeah,
world
yeah.
that
So
we
there's
feel like is trickling
yeah,
into our
yeah.
culture?
So
That's
So
your
to
initial.
end up the podcast, just want to ask you guys real quick: are there certain things that you see here in America and Western society that you feel like it's kind of cause harm to our Tongan community, the future generation, and just something you're concerned about? I'll start with you. Daniela. Daniela, what do you think, Daniela? To conclude the podcast.
The disregard for consequences.
Voice, I swear to God, that sexy ass voice. Every time he gets ready to talk, I just hear God speak. And it's a Tongan accent that goes there. I swear.
Stop
Man,
it before I turn up
voice.
tomorrow.
I just had your voice. What? What you say?
I'm booking a flight.
Come all over, bud.
I think there's an ideology that is being spread around the youth and young men and women that we should not bear the wrath of consequences for our actions. I think that that's skewing a lot of the way that a lot of our youth look at the world. This is coming from someone who's worked predominantly with young men over the last sort of 10 years. And we've started a youth program with kids who, there's a big epidemic here of ram raids, which is kids of the age of 9 to 14 stealing cars, hot wiring cars, and ramming into shopping centers. And these are very young kids, right? And through the conversations, there's the obvious one is that there's lack of fatherhoods in the home. But also the second one is that they're not aware of the consequences of their actions. So they're free to go and do whatever they want. Obviously, that's how they've ended up in the spots that they are. But no one's reinforcing that, right? So when we look at the Western world in terms of how we interact with each other, a vast majority of us who sort of conform to somewhat of a traditional sort of ideology where we know what our actions hold, what the consequences are. So we weigh that line. We know, okay, I can push my limit here because I know I can bear the consequences of if that does not work out the way that I want it to. And there are certain things of, oh, hell no. The consequences are far too risky. I'm not willing to put myself in that position, not only for myself, but for the people that could potentially be affected. And these are things that I guess is a byproduct of a lot of the ideologies and the values that we've sort of gathered throughout our own experiences. But what I am seeing now is that there are even some of the more progressive crowd, they want all the positive sort of turn to any actions or decisions they make, but when there's a consequences, they want to alleviate themselves from it. And that's a very dangerous place to be in. And there is a lot more people taking up that and running with it. So, yeah.
Okay. All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Daniela. I'll pass it to you, Heta. Heta, anything you see? I know you're old school, very traditional, and still believe in that, those values, but there's certain values that you see in that's starting to become normalized society that you feel like, it's harming our generation, our future generation?
Are we clear?
Whatever is going to happen in society, the world is going to revolve. We can't control that, but we can control how we think and what we choose to do with our lives. We can control what we accept and what we don't accept, you know. But these, like, look, prime example, I firmly believe in guys being guys. If you were meant to be a girl, you would have been born a girl. If you were meant to be a guy, you were born to be a guy. Okay? Bottom line. So that's my belief. But, and those are what I believe in, because I mean, God, we just came in the news. A guy claimed to be transgender. He went into a women's prison. He impregnates some of the prisoners in jail. That's the reason why we don't do. There are consequences to those kind of values that some people are adopting, right? And I don't agree with it, and they don't agree with me. But that's the way it is. And in Tonga, growing up, it has already been there. And I remember watching a documentary of a Samoan guy, right? He was raised to be a girl because there was no girls, there were four boys. And so he became a transgender. But, he wanted to go back because he was talking about the difficulties of the life that he lived, of always being looked at, talked at, and, talked at or talked about. And he said, I am a human being. I still have emotions. Those were hurtful things that were said about me, you know. And he was saying, please do not do that to your boys. Don't raise them as girls. Because, we know in Tonga growing up, it's a taboo in my age to talk about it, but they were there. We have the Mahus and the Fakalates. I mean, they were there. So, you know, they're the ones that suffer. I can't say what they, until I walk in their shoes, I cannot talk about them. But these are my values. you know, like I said, if you were supposed to be if you were born a boy, you should be a boy. If you're born a girl, you should be a girl. That's it.
No worries. Thank you, Heta. Heta, I forgot to tell you, my pronouns are they and her. I forgot to tell you that.
Whatever. Hi.
I want to be known as handsome. I want to be known as handsome.
Next time, just call me my pronouns, please. Just joking, y'all. Just joking. All right, thank you so much, Hector. Hey, I agree with you, Hector. I totally agree with you. I support you on. I'll ride that boat with you to the end of the year. I'll pass it to you, Salsi. Salsi, what do you think? Anything in modern society that you feel like that's you don't agree with, and you think it's probably harmful for those who believe in that?
Like everything is harmful. Everything is harmful. As long as we can get that straight, everything is harmful, we can start to live. You can start to live. When you claim your life, it becomes yours. If we say that this is harmful, this is harmful, this is harmful, and we protect ourselves from those harmful things, we no longer then are present to life. So yeah, things are harmful. So what? And I trust in the next generation that just like we have, that we managed to live on. The next generation will just do the same job. They're going to manage to move on and progress in life. And I have it that if we don't trust that it's going to happen regardless whether you see it or not. It's removing that there is chaos in the world, in our communication, to have people be present, that every generation has had their battle to be successful, to grow. But in what we're talking about, we have it that they've been handicapped. We all have been handicapped with certain things. As human beings, we're all about evolving. And I have it regardless of what's in front of us, regardless of how the world shows up and how dangerous it is, we human beings will move forward. As Spock would say, like, go forward and prosper. Amen. That's all I got.
All Malo, yes. Malo, how you go? Malo.
Oh, Togo.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chelsea. And last but not least, Angela. Angela, anything you want to throw out there? Things that you may disagree with modern standards, values, and morals today, 2022. What do you think, Angela?
You say modern, I think we all say kind of like the Western world. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's the Western that I don't think it's ruined us or somehow brought things that are evil into our culture or whatever. I mean, we're human beings. We're evil on our own. I mean, like we get jealous, we get frustrated, we get angry and throw a fit. If we don't have what they have, we start comparing ourselves. We start wanting to please people, and therefore we go off and live a lie or become hypocrites. I mean, we're human. We're sinful. I mean, like we are evil we do not need anyone else. We can be all bad all by ourselves, right? So Western world hasn't brought that. If anything, it comes individually. Who are you? What is it about your culture that you love? And it defines, I mean, it fuses together with your values, and hold on to those things. Because if you believe what it is that is in your culture, and you believe in the values and the morals, whether it's from the word of God or whatever it is that you believe in, if you believe in those things, no one can move you. As an example, when I went to England, so many things that the Palangis were doing, and I was thinking, wow, I've got to catch up. Like, I'm going to do all these things, But then I slowly came down to the fact that they were doing things that I didn't agree with. There's nothing wrong with what I agree with. The way I live my life, the values that I hold, my morals, my culture. There is nothing wrong with that, And so when I come to identify who am I, what is it that I believe in? What are my values? Define those things and fight hard to not be moved from it. Really doesn't matter whether it's Western or Mediterranean, whoever comes your way, you're like, nope, this is who I am. And sometimes being Tongan is not enough. You just saying, I'm Tongan. No, you gotta have your values as a Tongan. What is it that makes you Tongan? And the way you talk about it, I try to talk of both sides with my children. I mean, my eldest is 15 and my youngest is 6 and I have 4, and I homeschool. And there are many times I share my life when I was in Tonga, even though I wasn't there too long. But I share the great things, the values, the hard work that I saw people, kids. I mean, here in the Western world, like you're an adult when you're 18. I was like, no, in Tonga, you were much younger than that, and you were already helping your parents. You were taking care of business. I was a cashier at my grandparents' store at the age of 8. I knew to go to school, come home, change, do my homework, stand at the store until it closes at 10. And so because of that, I knew that very young, hard work. You have to work. You want to get somewhere, get your head down and work hard for it. I can pull the chair up to the table because I know I've worked hard and I've earned to be here. Not because of not because of who I am and my name and all these other silly things, but because I've worked hard for it. And so really, we as a people, we grew up in a little island. It was, resources where we learned to share the little that we have. We learned that our parents or our uncles and aunties, they let us step on their backs to get where we are. And that keeps me humble. That keeps me looking back to my culture with endearment. Like I have such a dear memory about being Tongan. And so I think sometimes when people are, my age or younger than me, when they complain about a lot of things or they say, well, I like the Western, it's really just them. Like what is it about the Tongan culture was told to you? How was the experience of your parents? What was your experience? Because history, they're all just written. It's by perspective, right? I could tell the history. I could sit next door neighbor and I could live on the same street, have the same neighbors, go to the same school, but our perspectives will be different. I will write my history different from her. So yeah, it's not the Western's fault because we are all the same. We're just behind. We're just behind it. That's all it is. But what I hear of Tonga right now, it is not so behind in some areas, very horrific areas of young schoolgirls and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
All right. Angela, thank you so much. But thank you guys for sharing your final thoughts, and thank you for everybody that's watching this right now on the podcast. Shout out to everybody out there. I see Issa Leifau says, she said, I think you mentioned that already. I think Brown Girl from the Island said, hello, everyone. Here's to another great show. Hey, thank you, Brown Girl from the Islands. Always watching, tuning in all the way to the late night. Thank you so much. But yeah, we come to the end. Thank you so much, everybody that's watching. Definitely like and subscribe, and we do this weekly on every single Wednesday. But to ask my guests real quick, what's your final thoughts and how can people find you so they can support you? I'll start with you, Southie. Southie, how can they find you? And your final thoughts about tonight's conversation.
Yeah, definitely a much needed conversation. Thanks for just having me. It's always an honor and pleasure to sit down with people that are willing to have a conversation about past and future. Final thought is like, thank you so much. Love you all for being here and being open to having a conversation. You can find me on Instagram as Ramana Fit or search Siasi Bema. And that'll do it.
I'm like personal trainer. I've searched you up on Facebook.
If you want some good inspiring and motivational content, definitely follow Siasi. Always inspires me to watch you on your workout videos. So thank you so much, Siasi. And I see NLA from Facebook that said everyone is entitled to their opinion. Yeah, of course. That's why we have these conversations. Thank you for watching all the way from Facebook. I'll pass it to you, Heta. How can people find you, and final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Again, thanks, Will, for having me here and be part of the panel. And I hope that whatever we discussed tonight, and out to our viewers to take whatever you want to take and leave behind whatever you don't feel you should take with you. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions and their own values. And I just enjoyed the conversation with all of you guys, and I'm glad we can have a panel. We can agree and disagree on certain things without conflict.
Yet, without conflict.
You're starting something up, Will.
I think the best word is like no attachment.
That's true.
It's just a conversation.
Oh, and I forgot to say, you can find me Instagram, Facebook, Heta High. I'm there.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Heta. And I'll pass it to you, Daniela. Final thoughts, and how can people find you?
First of all, don't find me. But if you really must, Will's Instagram, he's always tagged me in any of the controversial little clips that I'm on. So if you really want to find me and have a conversation. But I encourage anyone who's watching or will be watching any sort of clip, if you disagree, jump on. I think this is the best way to hash out any sort of differing opinion, is to have the ability to have a conversation, whether that be virtually or face to face. Other than that, again, I'm sitting amongst people who have walked life before me, and I take great pleasure in sharing the platform with them. I'm taking away a lot of values in terms of how you guys are looking at life. There are things that I am having to go back and relook at and see where we're differing in opinions, and there are certain things that I agree with. But it's always a pleasure to have these conversations, and I think the sentiment is the same as everyone has shared already. Great pleasure. It's a blessing to be here with everyone, and I look forward to the next Talanoa that we have.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much, Daniela. I think Segment said on the live chat, detach from your emotions and transmute your chaos. That's what I learned. And no attachments. Yeah, of course. We're all Tongan here. If you go to Tongan, there's no such thing as emotions. What is emotions from Tongans? Kung habi alaw bisig man na.
Oh, te tau ke.
If you had emotions as a Tongan, you probably didn't grow up the real Tongan way. All right. Thank you so much, Daniela. Let me pass it to you, Angela. Angela, how can people find you and final thoughts?
Well, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram, Angela Bustos. And final thoughts. Well, I truly enjoyed tonight. Actually, I've met Cial. I know Auntie Hata and Daniela I met last time, but I had not had the pleasure of meeting Cialci today. Tonight was my first night, and I really, really enjoyed it. I know I kept looking down, and truthfully, I had notes. It's wonderful to hear, and learn something from everyone, and be inspired. So I've looked on Facebook while we're on. I'm like, I've got a friend, Cialci. I gotta learn how to get fit because, no point of having wealth here if your health is declining and all. So it's important to keep the mind and the body healthy. So thank you, Cialci, for sharing those things on social media. I'm really glad to be a part of tonight's podcast. I learned so much. So thank you.
All right, no worries. Angela, thank you so much. Always appreciate your perspective. And thank you for everybody on the live chat, to Segment and to Anela Jr., to Anai from Facebook. Thank you so much. If you missed, I know a lot of you guys mentioned you guys missed the beginning. Just go watch the beginning of the podcast. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. Next time we do go live with a different panel, different topic. We do this every single Wednesday. And of course, we do once a month. I like to bring on the Tongans into a panel and we can talk about topics related to the Tongan perspective. But fellas, thank you so much, Cialci, Heta, Daniela, Angela. Always appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being on here. Excited to have you guys on the podcast. Malo pito.
Thank you. Hello. Okay. How do